The last 30 years has seen the tribes go through a process of gathering up through litigation and negotiation with the state, the Crown, the ingredients with which they can think about nation building. Just think about it. They need to be reminded what they're there for. The biggest area of research need in New Zealand, in this area, is what role the tribes and tribal assets should play in the next generation's necessary transformation. In some ways, the Māori people have never been worse off than they are now. We've watched a century and a half, 2 centuries of steady corrosion of the Māori social fabric, done intentionally by this abusive coloniser that I mentioned, in the belief, they say, that it was going to be good for Māori to stop being Māori, to stop speaking their language, to stop living communally and collectively, to start thinking individually and behave like white people. To some extent, that project has succeeded. Not completely. The Māori language is still being spoken. The tribes still exist. Māori culture is still practiced, but it is not strong. On the other hand, the disintegration of Māori social and economic fabric has meant that the individual Māori people sit right at the bottom of the pile in Aotearoa. The real research needs are around how you marry tribal reconstruction with Māori transformation. It's easy to think about tribal economic development as the development of the tribal corporate and the growth of that tribal corporate into an entity highly integrated into the abuser's system of economy and politics. In a sense, if that's all we get out of this, it will be the ultimate colonial victory, because even the reparations that we take for the crimes of colonisation themselves become a trophy to the coloniser. So how do we use those ingredients, in a sense, to turn the clock back? To know that in a generation's time our language will be more widely spoken than it is now, that our customs will be more widely practiced than they are now, and that we will be better educated, less incarcerated, less removed. In other words, that on all the scales, cultural, social and economic, the Māori reality is better than it was, right? And that the tribe, the iwi, all 50 of them, are the core ingredient in that transformation. In other words, the tribes pull themselves up by the bootstraps, and in doing so, pull their people up with them, with a sense of their own separate nationhood, right? That's really the only possible goal. And I'm not at all sure, and perhaps that's because I'm a judge and I don't study this stuff all the time, but I'm not at all sure that the research is asking those questions. It does seem to me to be siloed into either commercial and economic development or social and cultural development, and there is no integration of the centrality of the role of the tribe, or the tribal nation, in the winding back of the clock to a better reality. I've said that very poorly, but I think that's where research needs to be done.